Good morning, and welcome back to Gaming with ADHD. Today it's Flashback Friday, and we're taking a look at another classic Battletech product. No, that's not classic Battletech, it's just old. So, anyways, today we're taking a look at the Aerotech box set. It was originally released in 1986 for a retail cost of $15. Now, this is their first foray basically into additional rules beyond the Battletech and mech rules that they introduced in Battletech and expanded upon with CityTech. Now, since the airplane was introduced in the early 20th century, it has been a staple part of warfare. So it's basically a natural extension of the system to add the aerospace fighters and also the dropships that ferry the battle mechs and the aerospace fighters from one system to another and then to land on the planet. So we are going to take a look at the contents of the box. This is probably going to be a rather short video just because of the amount of content in it. But this is basically an unboxing video. It's still intact from its time of purchase. I did not purchase this originally in 1986. As you'll see here in a minute, I acquired this sometime later, but it is still unpunched and basically unused since then. So, with that said, let's take a look. So as we see on the cover, this is Aerotech, the Battletech game of fighter combat. Product number 1609. Now, I'll just point this out. I purchased this sometime in the year 2000. At Bookman's, which is a used bookstore here in Arizona, and purchased it for $8. Now, there's a little bit of damage to the box, but we won't focus on that. We'll look at the image first off, where we've got a Davian aerospace fighter being fired upon by a Draconis Combine. I believe that's a Union dropship. And we've got some extra aerospace fighters there in the background. Now, the fighter is interestingly not actually included in the rules from what I can see, but regardless, this is just a great piece of art. It really captures the feel, what they're trying to go for. Basically, space combat between fighters and dropships. All right, looking on the back, we've got another version of the fighter on the front. We don't have our Davian symbol. We've just got the mercenary company involved. We have the quick definitions of what is Battletech, the study and implementation of open battlefield tactics and technology, and Aerotech, the study and implementation of combat by aerospace fighters and dropships in the planetary orbits and in the atmosphere. Then obviously we get a little bit of flavor text. You're a fighter pilot, danger, excitement, etc. And our list of contents. Over 100 playing pieces, a map, a rulebook, and 2 dice. Full disclosure, I do not have the dice, but it's Battletech. You need 2d6. Always. Anyways, so taking our lid off, we've got first our rulebook showing a unseen Shadowhawk, and I believe that's a Stuka aerospace fighter for the cover. So, good piece of art. Basically black and white, which was pretty common of gaming books at the time. designed by Jordan Weissman and L. Ross Babcock III. All right. Now, they did expand on the rules quite a bit in this because a lot of the early licensed images came from Robotech and not Robotech, but Macross and a variety of different Japanese anime and manga. They had the Valkyries from Macross, which could transform. So they actually opted to bring those in, calling them land-air mechs. I've got our playtesters and our production staff. All right. So we've got our list of contents with one of our, I forget the term that they used. Oh, air mech mode is what they called that in Battletech, but obviously it's a Valkyrie in Gerwalk or a Veritech in Guardian mode. All right, we've just got our introduction with the components, a smaller version of the record sheet so you know what you're dealing with, the map sheet describing the terrain that you'll find on the map sheet. We'll take a look at that here in a minute. And a quick sequence of play. So, some great 80s art. Just has a feel of Wing Commander, if you ask me. Like the old school computer game, if you remember that. Lots of use of art for the fighters in the corners of the book. And some pretty good black and white art mixed throughout. Got our movement rules. Now this actually gets a bit more complicated because since you're dealing with space combat, you then have to look at the gravity of the planet or the moon in your area and what is that going to be doing to affect your movement. Then we've got rules for entering the atmosphere. That was absolutely one thing that they wanted to do, was let you mix the two games. Let you play as an aerospace fighter who is coming into the planet to provide support for the mechs on the ground. So they actually will provide two maps, and we'll see that here in a minute. One to be used for space, and then one to be used for the ground. They also give you different scales to use those at. And then they'll also even give you rules for actually using them on a Battletech map sheet. So actually involving them in the combat. So then we've got our weapons table. Very limited selection of weapons, but don't forget, this is early Battletech. So most of the weapons that exist today didn't exist at the time. They were pretty simple. The rules or the selections were pretty simple. But as with any kind of technological advance, especially in warfare, it does increase very quickly. So here we've got one of the original Aerotech record sheets. We've got an armor diagram similar to your battle mechs, listing of your mech, what heat sinks you have available. They also added a rule for structural integrity. When you're pulling G's and making your craft do high velocity turns, it's going to stress the airframe. So they put in rules for how to adjust for that. You also have a chart for tracking your thrust or your. I don't want to call it speed, but basically, the direction and what velocity you're starting at, how much thrust you're applying, and then how much velocity you have at the end of that turn. And then the traditional heat scale, and then a list of the weapons. Now, for Aerotech, they opted to do away with the critical slots. So, in my understanding, because I'll be honest, I actually never played Aerotech, despite having played Battletech a bunch as a kid. There wasn't. Yeah, my understanding, there wasn't a critical slot restriction on how many weapons you could take. You could take as many as you needed as long as it fit within the weight class. All right, then we've got rules for the Leopard class dropship, what weapons you have in each of the arcs, and how much armor you have. Another Aerotech record sheet. Again, these were published in the middle of the book so that you could take them out very easily and take them to a copy machine, if you remember what a copy machine is. All right, we've got our Union class dropship that we saw from the cover of the box. Again, all the different firing arcs and the different armor, amount of heat sinks, and obviously its movement and structural integrity. Another aerospace fighter. An Overlord dropship. And more Aerotech fighters. And then we've got a diagram or a list of basically all the cheat sheets for how to, or the reference sheet. The critical engine table, or movement table, missile hit table. So all the different tables that you would need for assessing damage, or your 2-hit rolls, piloting skill rolls, consciousness table, whether your pilot passes out, things like that. Then we get back to our rules. So we then get over here into, as I mentioned earlier, the ground target rules. So how to actually incorporate the aerospace fighters into a game of Battletech. Basically, you get strafing runs. That's the way to think about it. All right. Getting into heat. Now we're going to add how dropships and mechs interact. Adding dropships for combat. Just a stats list for the Leopard, Union, and Overlord dropships. And then they actually give you rules for construction. So obviously it was a new game. They didn't have a lot of designs. And so they gave you rules so that you could make up your own aerospace fighters. All right, we've got chart for the engine table. And then we've got 6 different aerospace fighters. 2 light, 2 medium, and a heavy. Our rules for land-air mechs. And the different stats for those. And then other rules. Refueling, launching, recovery. Some more optional rules. And then a couple of scenarios. How to set up and what your victory conditions are. So, all right, there's our rulebook. Got another cheat sheet here on the back. All right. After the rulebook, we've then got all of our tokens. So they say over 200 tokens. This right here is 112 tokens, and they did it twice. But one of the things I really liked is, as you can see, they did different fighters for each of the different nations. So we've got Davian, Steiner, Merrick, Lau, Kurita. battle mechs for using the ground combat map, generic fighters for other factions, and dropships. And again, you get all of these listed twice. They are numbered differently so that you can run different squadrons if you need to. And there's nothing on the other side. All right, and the last thing that we have in the box is our map. Now, this is twice the size of a regular battle map, but as you can see in my camera area, I don't have room for all of that. But here we can see, actually, let me unfold it one more time. All right. So we've got a planet, a moon, and open space. The gray arrows, if your fighter stops on those hexes, this is going to affect drift towards the planet. The blue arrows, anytime you would pass through those, it automatically is going to affect how your aircraft deals with gravity. So obviously we've got we've got the planet and we've got the moon. This blue ring represents the atmosphere of the planet. So, and if you notice, these are all about 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch hexes. They are not very large. Obviously, with just the, I think those are 1/2 inch tokens, they don't need to be very large. But it is clearly a different scale than a game of Battletech. In fact, each of these hexes, as I was going through the rulebook, represents about 4,000 kilometers. So lots of different space, or lots of space. Now, this is the other map that I was talking about. I won't open it fully, but it is just a blank map to represent your the planet surface, but up in the atmosphere. So these hexes are supposed to be used as a scale of 500 meters as opposed to 4,000. But it does give you a different way to play the game. And then they obviously have the different rules to accommodate. But that's it. This is what you would get for $15 in 1986. But it was a complete game and an expansion of the Battletech universe. So, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. It's been really fun to pull out some of the older content of my collection and be able to show it off to you guys. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing on the channel and haven't yet, I would absolutely love it if you subscribed. I'm trying to get regular content out over all sorts of different tabletop games, from board games to miniatures games to card games. And, I'd love to share that with you. So, thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.